witches were not burned, women were burned. So when we talk about witches, I think we really need to have more of a conversation around what a witch really is, and we need to decolonize that real quick. So yesterday I was having a conversation with my partner because I do a lot of reading. If you haven't noticed, I want to know everything about everything. And he asked me, he said, "Why are you reading about witches? Like, what's up with you?" And he might have been a little scared, but the reality of it is that I'm reading it because I want to know everything about everything that I have been told to be afraid of. Because you see, the more that I read about witches, the more that I understand that witches are women. Women who have been unapologetically non-conforming to capitalism, to colonization, to anything that did not register with their natural being. But because we live in a colonized society, that was seen as demonic because it wasn't aligned with what was going on. Now, to take it a step further, my man also asked me, well, how do you know that these witches weren't just, in fact, just witches? But then we have to look at the history of midwifery and understand that doesn't make sense for a male doctor to be delivering babies out of our vag. It doesn't. But you know why that's standard practice? Because midwives were also seen as witches. Why? Because they wanted men to dominate the medical field. Because women were not seen as legitimate in their ability to work with the female body. Imagine that. So for me, there's more to it, but that's all I need to know that witches were simply women who didn't give a fuck about what you had to say. Now, I want to add this disclaimer because everything in the world has balance. It's going to be bad where there's bad, there's going to be good. And so there is going to be what we call bad witches, right, or dark witches. And there's also going to be things called good witches. And most of the people that are good witches probably don't even realize that they would be considered a witch back in the day. But if you're working with earth, if you're working with the ground, if you're tapping into your natural intuition, that back in the day, you would have been held at the stake. Okay? Sit on that and think about how oppressive that is.
And this is why, again, Jesus, or God, cannot unalive Satan with all his might, with all his power, with all his infinite knowledge. He is not able to destroy Satan. You have to understand as you grow up that God and Satan are like yin and yang, one of the same coin. One of the same coin. You flip it, is another coin. You flip it again, it's another coin. The side of the other coin. They're one in the same, and they're working for the same cause. And just like everything in life needs a balance, there's good, there's bad, And it's not because white people made it so. It is how life is. There's cold, there's hot. And there's also a medium balance between cold and hot. It cannot be extremely cold, right? And though it can be, but on seasons, like the weather, like the seasons, it can be, right? It can be extremely cold, but then again, it's going to be hot and mild, like that. It's going to find balance because that's how life works. Do you feel me? Or do you need to feel me deeper? Because let's be honest with ourselves. God cannot exist without Satan. Satan is necessary. Is a very, very, very necessary to Satan. And Satan is necessary to God. They work together. Or rather yet, God makes Satan do all the ugly work that he does not want to do. They're one. They exist in one. Okay? This is why your God likes money, too much of it. And he likes people living in poverty. He likes people singing. He's misogynistic. He likes pain. He likes pain. He likes seeing people suffer. And he likes seeing people beg him to take them out of their misery. While he sits there on the throne and like an egoistic man that he is, full of himself. Really. And people who believe in God, They always believe in something outside of themselves. They never believe in anything else outside of themselves. Because if you can believe in anything inside of yourself, why would you need God to rescue you? I haven't prayed ever since my dad died. And it's coming through a spiritual cleansing myself and realizing that why I shouldn't even pray. But I haven't. I haven't prayed. I haven't engaged in any of this religious gag because I've known it. I've known it. I've known it through going through extreme pain, through the most exaggerating pain I've ever felt in my life, and coming to realize that, oh my God, I'm going through hell. And going through that hell and then having to love myself again. And then this is why these women were coming through that. Internal knowing of selves gives you that knowledge of freedom. It does. You don't believe me? Start loving yourself and see what happens. Start loving yourself. You would change the direction of even how you walk your life. You would even, the people, it might not happen at the speed that you want it to, but it's going to happen slowly but surely. You're not going to engage with the people that you used to engage with. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. The minute you start loving yourself, the minute you start taking, like when I look at myself and how I used to be, I was an empty shell in the past. I used to be an empty shell. I used to do what other people told me to do. After my dad died, it's sort of like there was this pain driving force, and I did not take my own voice. I took other people's voice, and then I became a shell of myself, and I wasn't even myself. And then I compare myself to now. Now I have my voice. Now I love myself, and I don't give a damn. I live for me, and I love me. And that's why she says this why these women became witches, because they were in love with themselves. They were in tune with themselves. They knew what these men were doing, and they were not conforming to the changes of what these men were doing. So you can't just unalive so many people without branding them negatively. And this is what they also did with us Africans, by the way. They didn't just do it to midwives. They needed to paint this image of us in a bad light, that we are unaliving them, and we needed to make sure that you see they are unaliving us, and we are defending them. We're defending ourselves from these vultures, and they're uncivilized. We're the God ones, and we doing the most ridiculous and heinous crimes you can think of, and then forcing us with this religious gag that we need to save ourselves, that we should not hold anger, that we need to forgive 67 or whatever, 77 times, whatever they talk about. And it's going through that and realizing that these women were non-confronting. When you become non-confronting as a woman, you realize that, actually, I think I should go this way. I believe that self-love has a way of liberating you. It does. It will find you. I used to think that liberation is not my obligation, and then it's coming through in tuning with love and owning yourself and falling in love with the knowledge and falling in love with your path. That knowledge finds you, and you end up doing that which you did not even want to do in the beginning. And this is what these women end up being. It becomes you, it consumes you. And another thing is this as well. You need to find balance, just like she said. It's finding balance and existing within that balance, because if you don't, what's the whole purpose? You see, you need to find it. You need to find balance, or you will go cuckoo, basically.